Good afternoon. I'm Carol Riley, and I work at NAESP and am facilitating this webinar today, Shaping a Vision of Academic Success for All Students. The document, The School Principal as Leader, Guiding Schools to Better Teaching and Learning, was published in 2013 by the Wallace Foundation. Since 2000, the Wallace Foundation has published more than 70 reports on leadership. They draw from both case studies and large quantitative analysis. Research that they have found shows that most school variables considered separately have at most small effects on learning. The real payoff is when an individual, in this case the principal, takes those individual variables and combine them to reach a critical mass. Creating those conditions under which that occurs is the job of the school leader, the principal, and that's why leadership is so crucial in our schools. The document, The School Principal as Leader, has 5 key practices of effective principals. Those key practices on your screen cover visioning, hospitable climates, cultivating leadership, improving instruction, and managing people, data, and processes to foster school improvement. These 5 key practices are the critical areas that the research that the Wallace Foundation has conducted over 70 years that are brought to the forefront of a principal's life and the way that schools are led. As we take a look at these 5 key practices, this webinar is going to be focused on the first practice, shaping a vision of academic success for all students. But before we start that practice, we're going to take a poll. And the poll is on your screen, so take a moment and look at this. The question is, within your current school culture, what would be your first step to shape a new vision of academic success for all students? If you were trying to improve your vision or your school's vision, really focusing on academic success, what would be your first step? There are 5 possible answers, so reflect on them for a second. Developing the staff for a common understanding of vision, identifying and articulating your vision as the school leader, fostering the acceptance of group goals, setting direction with staff for their individual beliefs and contributions, or creating high-performance expectations for your school.
We're going to go ahead and launch the poll. You'll see it right there in front of you.
While you're taking the poll, I would like to also share with you some of the ideas that the Wallace Foundation has found. Often a principal is viewed as a middle manager. And in a rapidly changing environment and with the complexities of the job ever present, Wallace refers to Jim Collins' Good to Great publication, which draws from leadership characteristics in corporate life. At the school level, evidence is quite strong in identifying, for example, school mission and goals, culture, teachers' participation in decision-making, and relationships with parents and the wider community as potentially powerful determinants of student learning. So the 5 key practices that you see on your screen are really more than words to be viewed individually, but taken as a whole to demonstrate embedded leadership skills that lead us to a school's success. Let's go back and take a look at our poll again. When we took a look at what you felt was most important in creating a new vision of academic success in your schools or in your organizations, 33% said developing staff for a common understanding, 22% to identify and articulate your vision, 11% for fostering the acceptance, 0% for setting direction, and 33% for creating high-performance expectations, which really leads the charge for all principals, whether they're new or experienced, to develop staff and create high-performance expectations for your school. thank you for taking that poll, and we'll come back to it later in our presentation. At this time, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Dennis Parcells, and Dennis is in his third year as the principal of William C. Jack Elementary School in the Glendale School District in Arizona. Dennis graduated from the University of Washington, and he obtained a master's in teaching from the University of Washington as well, and a master's in administration from Arizona State University. Dennis loves to spend all his free time playing sports and hanging out with his family. Julie Hassan is another presenter for our webinar. She completed her doctorate in educational leadership from the University of South Florida in 2011 with a qualitative dissertation illuminating the transition from teacher to administrator. She's a faculty member of Hillsborough Community College Educator Preparation Institute, where she teaches a diversity class to adults working on teacher certification. As a part of Hillsborough County's Wallace Principal Pipeline Project, Julie has served as a trained mentor for new administrators and a panel member for entrance and exit interviews throughout the pipeline process. Julie is an elementary principal at Sims Elementary School in Hillsborough County, Florida. Our third facilitator today is James Richardson, and he has been a leading-edge educational technology educator for over 14 years. Today, James is at the forefront of a one-to-one mobile device integration. His school, Buck Lodge Middle School, is one of 4 Title I middle schools engaged in a one-on-one iPad initiative called Transforming Education Through Digital Learning. James has degrees from Norfolk State University and McDaniel College in Maryland. He routinely presents at seminars and workshops sponsored by Apple on how to successfully implement and manage a one-on-one mobile device program, and you'll hear more about James' work later in this webinar. At this time, I would like to turn over the webinar to Julie Hassan. Julie, thank you.
Thank you, Carol and Honor, and good afternoon, everybody. As Carol said, I'm principal at Sims Elementary. Sims is located in Riverview, Florida. We're a suburb of Tampa, Florida. And our school opened in 2001, so we're 12 years old. Here's a picture of our beautiful school here in Florida. If you're not in our area right now, it's a pretty day. It's about 88 degrees. We are a school with changing demographics over the past few years. We've become a more diverse school, and our economically disadvantaged population has increased. So our Sims team has had to be responsive to our students' changing needs. It's important to note that the 5 key areas of impact detailed in the Wallace report are all interrelated. So shaping a vision of academic success for all influences the other 4 key areas of impact. I'm looking through the lens of an early career principal, specifically at how early action can facilitate the shaping of a vision, which ultimately leads to student success. As a new principal, it's essential to know your personal vision when talking about a vision for your school. So knowing your values and what your non-negotiables are an important part of that process. Creating a 90-day entry plan gives direction when you're transitioning into a new school. As I entered Sims, I had a few general goals and an entry plan which I tried to keep very transparent. So I used those initial goals based on some early data I had. I included scheduling semi-structured interviews into that plan with all staff members, some parent representatives, and community stakeholders, and put all of that on our website so that people would understand what the plan was and what the purpose of the entry plan was. During interviews with stakeholders, I explored 3 areas. What is currently working well at Sims? What opportunities are there for improvement? What are the expectations of me as a new principal there? I identified trends from those interviews and then shared those results back out with stakeholders to further develop and refine some shared goals for all of us. Important early steps in shaping a vision includes putting structures in place that facilitate collaboration. So at SIMS, we needed to schedule common PLC and RTI time. We also needed to move to a block scheduling model that enabled teachers to work with instructional coaches and work together in peer coaching models. So the leadership team looked at schedules, calendars, and agendas to ensure our academic focus, and we continued to monitor our school culture through a TEL teacher perception survey and a school climate survey for parents and students. Because Dr. Joe Murphy states, you must tend to the seed bed for seeds of change to grow. And we realized that change couldn't happen without some positive impact that needed to be made on our school culture. Although leadership comes from many sources in a culture with a shared vision, the principal must take the lead in promoting academic success for all students. I do things like attach articles to our faculty meeting agendas and create a book study we do as a faculty each spring. Doing those things creates a common vocabulary and a set of understandings that shape our shared vision. As a school, SIMS continues to examine and refine inclusive practices. We have a great deal of exceptional student education students at SIMS, including students with physical impairments. So we're always examining our inclusive practices and being committed to the success for all students. So currently, most of our articles are focusing on differentiated instruction. We're participating in a web-based study and a book study in the spring, looking at DI as part of that move towards better inclusive practices. As a new leader promoting a shared vision of academic success for all, it's essential to have a plan for my time each day. I schedule the big rocks first, in other words, those things that directly impact instruction. I schedule my time in classrooms first and try to track my instructional time. In doing so, I give timely feedback to my teachers based on one concrete aspect of instruction at a time, and work on developing a repertoire of specific next steps that I can give them for follow-up and additional feedback. Then I also use my observations to look for trends that need to be addressed as a whole faculty. For example, we identified a need to refine our use of essential questions in math instruction this year. That came directly from the assistant principal in my walkthrough during math instructional time. We first addressed it through a group training on essential questions, and we've continued to follow up during our classroom visits and provide feedback specifically on that one instructional area. Although shaping a shared vision of academic success requires me to prioritize those instructional tasks, there are management tasks that still have to be handled. So it SIMS, everyone from custodians to bus drivers must be able to articulate how their role impacts our shared vision. So in other words, they need to know exactly how their role impacts kids being successful. And when decisions must be made at our school, our focus is always on students rather than adult convenience. I have a sign on my door that says, warning, this principal is going to ask what's best for kids. And teachers and all staff members know that when they come in with a question or a suggestion, we're going to examine it through the lens of what is the very best choice that we can make for our kids. And finally, reflecting on those early actions and decisions is important. A reflection journal or continual coaching conversations with a mentor help me as a new leader assess how my actions are shaping that shared vision of academic achievement for all students. It's important to continually self-reflect and seek input on the shared vision, making sure that I'm on the right track and that in leading this staff, people are following. And so input and reflection are keys to making sure that that shared vision is happening for everyone.
Well, thank you, Julie. The things that you're doing in your new school, being an early career principal, certainly you're making a change. We know the importance of reflection, but clearly looking at it through the lens that you have just shared with us, shows the importance of shaping a vision for all students and involving all of your staff in making those decisions from their individual roles really contribute to that impact of shaping the vision. So thank you very much, Julie. We would like to move now to our next presenter, Dennis Parcells from Glendale, Arizona.
Hello, everyone. And Julie, thank you for getting us off to a great start. You did a really great job there. If you want to go ahead and click next to the next slide. I'm Dennis Parcells, and I'm the principal of William C. Jack Elementary. We are a kindergarten through third grade school located here in Glendale, Arizona, also a very sunny place. It's 85 here today, not to make anybody jealous. All right, next slide. Here's a little information about our school, and you can see our demographics. And a couple of things that is unique to our school is we are kindergarten through third grade, although we do have many students. We also have 17 classrooms that are full ELD classrooms, which is English Language Development. We also house the district's behavioral self-contained program, and we are a TAP school, which is the System for Teacher and Student Advancement. It's a national movement many of you may be familiar with. Next. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is just how we've gone about creating a vision for academic success here at Jack. So I'm just going to give some examples of some of the things that we've done and also try to make a connection between how has that example helped shape our vision here at Jack for academic success for all of our kiddos. Go ahead, next. So very similar to Julie, you know, the first thing that administration, my assistant principal and I did 3 years ago when we first arrived at this school, we were both new to the district, new to the school. We conducted a needs assessment, and we met with every single staff member from cafeteria to maintenance to teachers to support staff, all the stakeholders, you know, that were invested in the school. And we asked them 3 questions, very similar to the questions Julie asked some of her staff. We asked, what did you really like about our school? What gifts and strengths do you have to contribute to our school? And if possible, what are some things that you'd like to change? And you know, we had an opportunity, we gave them some time for reflection, and then we met with all of them individually. And I think this whole process really helped with a couple of things. It helped right off the bat to build relationships, which we know relationships are so key and important in promoting a vision for academic success. It also set up that it was going to be a very collaborative environment where everyone's voice was going to be heard and valued. Plus, a big cornerstone philosophy of my leadership is to have shared leadership. We know we can't do it alone. So I think this right off the bat just set the stage for and promoted some shared leadership. Also, it really helped all of us come together and really understand the needs of our campus and laid the groundwork for what was going to be the vision and what were going to be our goals working together. Next. Now, you heard me talk a little bit about shared leadership, so that was something that we wanted to focus on right out of the gate. One thing that we did right off the bat was together we looked at all of the current structures we had in place for teams or events or committees or organizations. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to really look at the alignment there. Which of these teams were really working towards our vision and towards the goals that we had set forth for our school, and maybe which were some of the other teams where we were working hard but maybe it wasn't the right work. So we decided which were our priority areas, and we really put some heavy emphasis on those teams and made sure that we had all teachers a part of those teams. And then we also removed a lot of teams. We removed a lot of teams that maybe were working hard but weren't working towards that shared vision that we had. Also, another thing that we really wanted to make a priority was facilitation of learning by many, by our master teachers, our mentor teachers, our teachers, basically anyone who had a strength in certain areas we were trying to promote. We wanted those people to be facilitators of learning, and it didn't just come top down from administration. So we really tried to spread the wealth, get everyone involved, really capitalize on everyone's leadership capabilities and their strengths. And in doing that, we also really sought out opportunities for staff to shine, not only at the school level to promote that in-house leadership, but also at the district, the state, and even some national levels to really promote our schools. And I know you're going to hear James talk about that in a little bit, but Don't ever underestimate the importance and the value of promoting your school and promoting your people. Next. One other big area of focus for us, and something that I know we all do, but we really try to make a concerted effort. Lots of times we hear what gets monitored gets done, and I think that that's a good thing to think about. But I think that something even more powerful is what gets recognized gets done. So we really make an effort to praise and give specific recognition to all of our stakeholders, to our staff, to our students, to our parents. We like to publicly recognize and give them very specific praise when we see things that they're doing that are helping us shape that vision or helping us reach those school goals. Some things that helps us do, that helps us really celebrate our progress, and really success breeds success. So, you know, when we see those things being celebrated, everyone is more apt to want to emulate those things as well. It also motivates everyone to really keep reaching towards those school goals that we have. So we have some recognition awards that we give out as administrators, but also our staff has opportunities to give those out to students, to parents, to each other. We really promote that with our students too. We have a school-wide incentive program that everyone on campus really tries to focus, and anytime students are working towards those school goals that we have and that vision that we have for our school, they're also being recognized for that. And we even have a praise matrix that we use. It's an Excel document where we track praise just to make sure that we are giving it out in large quantities and making sure that it is specific and that we are really trying to catch people doing things really well. Next. Another big change that we really worked on as a staff was looking at the systems that we had in place. We really wanted to develop systems thinking. And what goes along with that, when you're thinking about systems, what you're really trying to focus on is an understanding that people can only be as successful as the system they're operating in. So if something is not working towards that vision for success or those school goals, don't look at people, you look at the system. Why is it? Why are people not able to get to where you want them to be? What's constraining them in that current system they're working in? And what you do is you just work to improve that system. And by doing that, what that helps us do is it helps us maximize our biggest resource, which is human capital. We know that in this day and age, there's major cuts and reductions going on everywhere. I'm sure all of you are experiencing the same thing. But we need to move past that because a lot of those things are out of our control. And so we just want to focus on what we can control. And we know that this human capital is going to be there. And so we want to capitalize on that human capital. And also it helps us to align our work to maximize our time and effort. So everyone's working really hard, but are we working on the right work? So that's something that we really focus on as systems thinkers is, are we working on the right work? Because we know we're going to work hard, so let's make sure that we're working on the right work. Okay, next. Also, and this kind of through all these examples really breeds this language of commitment and never a language of complaint. We're firm believers here at Jack, and that's one of my personal philosophies also, that complaining is really just wasted energy. It doesn't help anything. It really just makes things worse. So we've really developed a culture of problem solving here. And we have some structures in place to really facilitate that, problem solving attitude. We have things, just as some examples, like our leadership team. We have that works on school goals, gets input from stakeholders, really works on trying to solve school level issues and problems. We have a principal's advisory council where a department head, so like a first grade lead, all the grade levels, somebody from our classified staff, somebody from all the departments is part of a principal's advisory council, and they bring questions, concerns, or ideas from their colleagues to the table, and we work as a group to address those, to problem solve, and to think about how we can make these things better in relation to our vision for our students. And then having just a lot of those shared leadership teams that are working on these things that are going to make our campus a better place to be and also lead us to those school goals that we've set forth. Next. Alignment and common language is a big part of all these things that we're talking about. And something we really needed to focus on when we first got here was those communication pieces. A wise person once told me you can never over-communicate. So I think it's really important for us all to be working towards those same school goals and that same vision. We need to have some high degree and high levels of communication. We need to make sure that all stakeholders are giving input on things. Through our TAP system, we do have some standard things that we look at together and that are the basis of all we do. We have common language with our rubrics for what quality instruction and learning looks like, feels like, and we're always constantly working on those things and referring back to them in all of our reflective post-conferences, all of our classroom support with walkthroughs and follow-ups. Our teachers keep interactive journals, and we focus all of our feedback and our journaling and the resources we provide all on that common language and that from those rubrics. That is what good quality teaching and learning looks like. Same thing with our professional development. All these things are aligned, and we're looking at the same things so that we can do some things really, really well. Same thing with when we're looking at scheduling, when we're looking at our grade level meetings and our professional learning community meetings. We want to make sure that we're having that same common language throughout all these threads. So like I said before, we're working on the right work. And what these things allow us to do, is it ensures that we're focusing on the school goals and the priority areas, and also it's increasing our problem solving and help develop that problem solving culture. Next, we talked a little bit about communication and all those stakeholder involvement. Once you've had that chance to develop those school goals with stakeholder input, when you've developed that shared mission and vision for academic success, it's extremely important that you're getting that message out there, that you are promoting those things with your staff, your students, your community, and even farther, reaching outside to partnerships and so forth. So don't ever underestimate the power of some of those social media things we have out there. And I know James is going to talk about some of that. But we, started a Facebook a couple years back. We're now up over 330 followers. So we're constantly promoting our school goals, promoting our vision as a school through these social media devices. We have weekly staff bulletins to make sure that we're all on the same page. And just like Julie had mentioned, we include research articles, to go along with some of those goals we have, to go along with those rubrics we use. We have monthly newsletters that's more than just informational. If we're really working on certain areas in math, we're making sure that we're providing our parents with strategies that they can use to work with kids at home. And same thing with those social media places, the Facebook, the website, the Twitter. It's getting that information out there, making sure that we're all on the same page, and giving people resources to help them so that we can all work together towards those common goals. Go ahead, next. Also, hiring, we know how important hiring is. So once we've developed these things in our common goals, our school goals, our vision for what we want our campus to be like, how we're going to ensure that all kids are successful, we put a lot of effort into hiring. We never just hire somebody to hire. We are constantly looking for people who are going to fit that vision that we've created. People who are going to be able to step in and not miss a beat, and they're problem solvers, and they're people who have the same values that we've developed together for our campus, and who all want to see all kids succeed. So we put a lot of effort into hiring. That's just going to help us get the right people and the right seat on the bus that we're all driving in together. Next. One last thing here is this something that we talk about on a daily basis, and it's all about attitude. Attitude is everything. And something we talk about here quite often is the yes attitude. It's something that we always start the year with, we close the year with, and we're constantly referring to it every day in between. And basically what it entails is it's this positive outlook on things. It's being a problem solver, not a complainer. It's about developing relationships with people and having that common language of we're going to think about the what if, not the why not. And I just want to read something with you just to close, and this, I think, just sums up what that attitude entails. So it says, yes. Being a yeser doesn't mean being a yes man or yes woman. It doesn't mean going along to get along or saying yes and meaning maybe, no, or over my dead body. And it doesn't mean nodding your head up and down incessantly like the toy dog in the back window of an old sedan. A yeser is someone who is up to the challenge, any challenge, someone willing to try, to give it their best shot. It's someone who can quickly overcome doubt and apprehension, then move forward. someone who sees as much value or more in the effort as in the results. A yeser is someone who wants to be on the playing field rather than sitting in the spectator section. And it's someone who wastes no time on negativity and naysaying. There are plenty of people willing to tell you why something won't work, why it can't be done, why now isn't the right time, or why they aren't the right person for the job. In fact, most of the working population is uncomfortable being full-time yesers. And that's the big reason to be one. It differentiates you, and it brands you with a big VE, valuable and employable. Think about it. Who are the most successful people you know or know of? Are they, it'll never work, we can't do that, this is a pain types? I seriously doubt it. I'm betting that your success role models are, we can do that, let's find a way to make it happen, you bet type of people. They're yesers, and you can join them. So that's just a little something about the yes attitude, and the last thing I'd say is, and something we always start every day with here, is keep smiling and have a yes kind of day. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. What a motivational way to take a look at not only our own beliefs, our own ethics, the way that we approach our own individual jobs, but you gave us a lot to think about in just being more positive and having positive beliefs that lead to great relationships. I think that the stress you put on how important a positive attitude is a terrific model that we can all aspire to. I'm sure it's the yes quotes that you read about this kind of an attitude makes individuals valuable and employable is certainly something we all need to think about. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Now we have our third presenter, James Richardson, our middle school principal in Maryland. James, over to you.
Awesome job, Dennis and Julie. You set me up in a great way. And yes, I am one of those persons as well. So thank you all for having me. Carol, an honor. It's definitely an honor for me to be a part of this presentation. My name is James Richardson, and I am principal at Buck Lodge Middle School. We're located in the wonderful, gorgeous Prince George's County, Maryland, where it is actually a gorgeous day here. And we're going to be talking briefly about a vision for success and how we set up a great model for our one-to-one iPad initiative. Next slide, please. You can skip that one also. Buck Lodge Middle School is we have very similar demographics to Dennis School, where we're Title I middle school. We have over 92% of our students are free and reduced. And we also have a high ELL population. Currently, the number that is listed on the slide is at 246. Well, since that slide was created, it jumped up to 256, just that fast. We have a very transient population here at Buck Lodge, but we also have a very diverse population where we have over 60 different countries represented throughout the building. Also, the very unique feature is that we have 80% of our population is Latino or Hispanic, but that other 20% is everything under the sun. As I mentioned, well over 60 different countries are represented. Next slide, please. When we first got wind that we were going to have our one-to-one iPad initiative that we're now into our third year of, starting this year, it was really about what is going to be our vision and what do we want to do with this one-to-one iPad initiative. I'm going to talk briefly about how we shaped this particular initiative to be a total success and how it impacted student achievement. What you have in front of you is the actual vision that was developed with the instructional leadership team here at Buck Lodge Middle School. Also, we have some very unique programs that are here. one that we invested heavily in at our school is the Healthy Schools program, which we received silver recognition this year. We have a large school gardens program where we have a hoop house that's located in one of our courtyards. We also have 50 specialized enrichment activities that happen during the course of the day, where there are clubs that range from jogging clubs to drama clubs, poetry, and just a list of others, robotics, engineering. We have a rocketry club. There are 50 different enrichment courses where students self-select those course of interest. But finally, one thing that we really focused on is how have we transformed our instruction and student achievement through the use of our one-to-one iPad initiative called Transforming Education Through Digital Learning. Steps that we went through to actually shape a vision of success was we had to, one, develop a clear vision, two, communicate that vision. More importantly, it was about how are we transforming the learning culture at Buck Lodge Middle School. So we had to provide strategic and aligned professional development. Of course, when we encountered all of these changes, there was a point where things got very difficult. I had to stress to the staff, don't panic, because we will be successful. And that went to when we start step 5 is to celebrate those small wins, those small successes. Next slide. Step number 1, clear vision. What is your vision? When you start shaping a vision for success, what is your vision? The question before the video was, what is your vision? Are you a lone nut? And I ask that, I show this video often, but I also refer to it because I was that lone nut. I had a vision. I had something that I wanted to do, and I imposed that on the staff. But guess what? I was that lone nut. I was by myself. It wasn't until I took the time to actually share the vision with others and get their input and then shape a vision of success based on their input. With our one-to-one initiative, I met with a leadership team called the I-Team. We sat and we talked about what does it look like? What is the purpose of the iPads? Now, only thing that I really wanted was to change instructional practice. The vehicle for changing that instructional practice was going to be the integration of technology throughout the building with the use of the iPads. And so I worked with this instructional leadership team to develop a shared vision, and guess what? I found me some first followers. I found those that were now going to be messengers, those that were going to go and talk to others about the vision. The key to it is to develop a shared vision with teachers that you're working directly with and administrators as well in your building. Talk with them, get their input, and have them actually think about how it's going to work and support the initiative. Also, we took the time to talk to parents, students, and community partners. It was branding. Buck Lodge is committed to excellence. Wherever I go, whoever I talk to, that's the first thing that I talk about is we are committed to excellence. So now what we have is a trickle effect where we have people who want to associate, like universities and other community partners like fraternities and churches, who don't mind providing us resources because of the vision and what they see and what has been communicated to them. The final thing is make sure the vision is posted throughout your building, because that reiterates what you're about, and that also speaks to your brand. Next slide, please. I already talked about, next slide. I talked a lot about how to communicate, but also one of the biggest things that we started doing is pictures. pictures speaks volumes about what it is that you're doing. If you look on our website, we have different pictures that are posted about the different activities and what's aligned to how we're working here at Buck Lodge Middle School. But I also talk about speaking with other people. I present a lot. I control the brand. I am the messenger of the brand. So when shaping your vision, when shaping a vision for success, you are the best messenger. Make sure that you have a message that you want to share, first of all, that is aligned to what you're doing, but that you also share the great thing, because too often we don't get out there and present about the wonderful things that are going on in our building. Next slide. With our one-to-one initiative, the biggest thing that we wanted to focus on was changing instructional practice. Teachers were the sage on the stage. I wanted them to release the learning to students. Well, how did we implement that particular vision? We put in a very dynamic, strategic professional development program. Our staff meetings are not staff meetings. Our staff meetings are professional development sessions where out of 90 minutes, 15 minutes are for principal critical updates. The remainder of the sessions are for professional development, especially around instruction and also integration of technology. Also, collaborative planning. We have collaborative planning weekly. One session is strictly for departments and teams to come together, but I also do technology professional development during collaborative planning. And then finally, after school, we have paid professional development that is aligned to teacher needs. One of the biggest things in order for professional development to work, you have to conduct needs assessments and align your professional development to what they want, as already been articulated by my colleagues prior to me. Next slide. However, things don't always go well, and we know that. Whenever we start something new, there's always going to be some type of resistance. Sometimes that resistance may get to be a bit overbearing. Don't panic. One, expect the decrease in student performance. Expect the decrease in the performance and really expect the resistance. The biggest thing is to, if you expect it, then react to it positively. Make sure that you go back to your vision and articulate your vision clearly and say, this is what we are about. This is what we're going to do. Next slide. An implementation dip is a natural succession of an initiative, of any new initiative. You're going to start off with things are wonderful. But guess what? As you begin, you're going to bump into resistors. I don't like the way this is going to happen. Why do we have to stay in this professional development? Why do we have to change? You're going to get any and everything that may come against you. Most importantly, capacity. Do the people who are implementing the change have the capacity? Next slide. When we started our implementation of our one-to-one, it was, ooh, we're going to get these brand new iPads. Then we set up and we prepared all these wonderful activities with the iPads. But then guess what? Our iPad rollout was delayed. And that's where you start to see that decline in quote-unquote staff morale. Once we actually started our one-to-one, we were at the lowest point of our implementation dip because staff didn't even want to be bothered. Well, we attacked that particular mentality by simply going back and communicating the vision for success. This is what we are about. This is what we're going to do. And by engaging staff during their collaborative planning, I was able to clearly articulate our vision. I was able to provide professional development to increase instructional capacity. And this is where you start to see us coming out of the red and now into the green. And things are starting to look up and move towards our year 2 and now year 3 of success with this particular initiative. Don't panic. It's going to be okay. Expect the implementation dip, especially as a new principal. When you walk into the building, the first thing you're going to see is everything that you want to change because it doesn't align. And then what you'll find is all of these things are going to start to happen. And then you'll start reacting to it. Don't panic. Stick to your vision. Stick to that shared vision that was developed by you and your staff and see it through. Next slide. The biggest way to come out of an implementation dip is to simply celebrate the small successes. When they walk in the door, have some donuts or something for them. When they come in and they do some things wonderful, and I'm talking about teachers, make sure you compliment them. More importantly, celebrate the Teacher of the Month. Celebrate academic success. Celebrate student achievement, especially quarterly and then even at progress points. Find any and every way to celebrate success. One thing that they're tired of me is I'm always talking about the wonderful things that are going on at Buck Lodge Middle School, because I think that our success should be shared with the world. And not only that, I invite people from around the nation and across the world, because we had visitors from Japan last year come visit our school, to see the wonderful things that are going on at Buck Lodge School. Share your successes with the world. Don't be scared that, oh my gosh, I'm going to open myself up to scrutiny. The scrutiny will help you to continue to press forward and get even better. And oftentimes we don't want to share because we don't want everybody poking around. But take the time to share your vision and share your successes. Trust me, they will lead to bigger successes. Next slide. One of the final ways that I'm going to talk about is, how are you working with social media? One of the biggest things that we started this year, and we're even revising our newly redone website because we're changing it again, is to, what does your school website look like? Does it reflect your vision? Does it show your vision? Do you have pictures up there? Do you talk about the wonderful things that are going on in your building? Well, make sure you share that information not only through your school website, but blog about it. Right now we have students that are writing blogs. We have teachers that are writing blogs. We have teachers that are actively on Twitter and sending out tweets about the wonderful things that are going on throughout the day on the classrooms. But students are also controlling one of the school Twitter accounts where they're sending out tweets about the great things that they're doing. And then I'm getting better at it, trying to also use it more and more every day. So I thank you for the time. If you ever in Prince George's County, Maryland, make sure you stop on by and see the wonderful things that are going on here at Buck Lodge Middle School.
Well, James, thank you for your insightful way of talking about technology and how that truly supports a vision for success. It was certainly an opportunity for us to reflect of how we can use social media, which is really a way of life nowadays, to help share our vision with the world and shape our brand. And as you so successfully stated, you as the principal control the message, and that's the important takeaway. So thank you so much for your insights as well. For the audience, we will be having a Q&A for the last few minutes of our session for Julie, Dennis, and James. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat box. When we set direction, there certainly are specific leadership practices that account for the largest proportion of a leader's impact. And this set of practices is aimed at helping one's colleagues develop a shared understanding about the organization and its activities and goals that are really a sense of purpose or the vision. People are motivated by goals which they find personally compelling as well as challenging but achievable. Julie, Dennis, and James, all three reinforced the setting direction and those specific leadership practices that they all use to lead their schools. And you also have to do that in an organizational context. You have large organizations to lead. They can be urban, suburban, or rural. So there's a rich body of evidence about the relevance to leaders of such features of an organizational context and the level of schooling, whether it's elementary or secondary, and also school size and district size. All of these features have to be taken into account when you are shaping a vision. You're setting directions, you're developing people, and you're making the organization work. So leadership effects are usually largest where and when they are most needed. Probably stated most succinctly is, especially when we think of leaders in formal administrative roles, the greater the challenge, the greater the impact of their actions on learning. So when you're having those challenging days, know that that's when you're pushed to the edge and when you have your greatest impact on shaping a vision. We're going to go back just for a second to look at the participant poll. Remember, we had 33% of you said developing staff for a common understanding of vision is how you would create or shape a new vision in your school. And also 33% of you said creating high performance expectations for your school. I hope through listening to Julie and Dennis and James, you have an idea of things that you can do to help shape your new vision. At this time, we're going to take some of the questions. We aren't going to have time for all of the questions that came across the chat box, but we're trying to get as many of them as we can. So first of all, Dennis, there was a question for you. You talked about the implementation of how to communicate. Dennis, you talked about a strength-based culture in which you facilitate learning. So how do you know truly what the strengths are of each of your staff members?
Well, a first step was just getting them to communicate with us what they believed to be their strengths and what they could bring to the table. And we found that people were very honest about that. I even look back to a lot of the things that teachers who've been with us now, and this is their third year with us, or longer, and I look back to what they wrote as far as what were their strengths, what could they bring to the table, and a lot of them were right on. And they were very honest about that. But I think a big part of us as leaders, though, is to see strengths inside of people that they don't even necessarily see. And so something that, and that goes along with all that stuff I talked about with shared leadership. I think a big part of my job is looking at staff members, looking at people, figuring out or trying to figure out what are their strengths and how can I put them in positions to be very successful. Great. And so, part of that is seeing strengths in people that they may not even recognize in themselves yet, but you're helping them to recognize that and putting them in positions for success.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. Here's a question for Julie. Julie, James spoke of the implementation dip he experienced at Buck Lodge. Did you experience an implementation dip in your new tenure at your school? And if you did, when and what was it, and how did you get out of it?
Yes, most definitely we did. As I said, we had to revise our schedules and some of those structures. PLCs and RTI were in just the beginning phases, and we really needed to work on how we were doing that work and make it a little more concrete as far as scheduling and tracking and tracking that impact on students. So people were really excited at the beginning when we first started that work. And then a month or two in, when we didn't see an immediate jump in impact on students, people start to feel a little frustrated, get a little disillusioned, and that's when the work of a leader and that shared vision really, as you said, Carol, is an essential piece. Being the cheerleader, being the encourager, and as Jane said, celebrating the small successes. By the end of the year, we started to see some gains in kids, especially some kids who really struggled because of those practices. So now coming into this year, people were excited and more willing to jump back into that.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for sharing that with us. James, you mentioned that you have over 60 countries represented by the demographics of your student body, and you have all of these enrichment classes that you mentioned. How do you get teachers to support those enrichment classes and meet the needs of students that represent 60 countries?
That's a great question. And actually, it works because guess who created the courses? The teachers did. I asked teachers, what is it that you would love to teach? What is your passion? And I gave them an opportunity to develop a course, an enrichment course around their passion. Now, the students, we gave students, once the teachers created the course, then the students were able to choose the course that they were most interested in. And so they picked their top 5 courses that they were interested in. And so what you have is the perfect scenario where teachers are teaching what they want to teach and students are in the courses that they want to be in. And it works. I'm just amazed at some of the work and the things that are going on throughout the day in our enrichment courses. It actually was one of the key things that changed our school culture last year and led us to some of the highest heights and the highest academic successes that we achieved in the past 10 years in this building.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, James. We've got one more question that any one of you can answer, and then we have some comments to just finish up our webinar. How do each of you, and if you can just take about 30 seconds apiece to answer this, how do each define human capital in relation to your mission and vision? And Julie, we'll start with you. How do you define human capital in relation to your mission and vision?
Like Dennis said, it's the differing strengths that each of the members of our SIMS team brings. And in most cases, when we put them together, we find their complementary strengths. And so depending on what the task ahead of us is, which is always aligned to our shared vision, different people may take the lead or may have greater or lesser responsibility in that task. So he's right, it really is forming those relationships so that you easily know and can identify and leverage the differing strengths in your staff.
Fantastic. Dennis, how do you define human capital in relation to your vision?
Well, I know during my talk I talked about systems thinking. I'm a systems thinker. I'm a big picture thinker, but our leadership team, we are very systems thinking type of group, and we really take it very personal, and we feel it's our job, our number one job, is to make sure that we are looking, revising, creating systems that are going to allow our people to reach their highest capability. And that's just part of systems thinking. So if something, we need to create systems that people can thrive in, that, people can capitalize on their strengths, where they can reach their highest potential. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about capitalizing on our human capital. like I said before, we're all working hard. We know everyone in education is working really hard. It's, are we working on the right work, and are we able to work to our highest capability based on the system that we're working in?
Great, thank you. How about James? How do you define human capital in relation to your vision?
Well, one thing I make sure, Carol, is that the visions are aligned. So when I'm interviewing staff, and I'll give you an idea, when I started here over 5 years ago, I've had about an 80% turnaround as far as the staff that is here at the building, because our visions weren't aligned. It's about student achievement. It's about students. What's best for students, I think Julie said. And I'm definitely making my decisions based on that. So when we start looking at human capital, I look at capacity. Do you have the capacity? Are our visions aligned? Do we have a shared vision as far as your thinking, the way that you think you should be working in a building? And how can you work with me and my personality as well?
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful questions, the ones that we were able to get to, and the great answers that Julie, Dennis, and James gave us, and the great insight into leadership. We do have some future webinars, Taking Wallace Research to Practice, so please note these webinars. Also note that this webinar will be archived on the NAESP website, so all of you can look at it again or share the link with your friends and use it as a professional development opportunity for your staff if you would like to do that. There are also a list of resources that you might use to help understand leadership and promote your own professional development, which really is the most critical piece in the growth of a school, is how the principal carefully looks at his or her own professional development. So in closing, I would like to thank James for introducing us to the video First Follower. And that YouTube video really does bring all together the idea that it's not just about the leader, that it's just as important to have the first follower and the second follower. And as we share a leadership vision, we want all those followers in our building to be emulated, not us as individuals. So as James said, leadership is overglorified, that it takes a lot of courage to follow. So you are the brand, and you lead the vision of your school within your school for academic success, but you are also creating the vision that the larger community has of your school. Again, you control the vision. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you next month for our next one. Thank you.